In the history of the Catholic Church, we've had 266 popes, including Pope Francis. And, of course, our first pope, Pope St. Peter, is buried underneath the high altar at St. Peter's Basilica. It's really amazing. One of the big questions that we hear a lot is, people ask, they say, Father, what is this whole teaching on infallibility? And does it mean that every time the Pope sneezes, it's infallible? No. There's a big difference between the person of the Pope and the office of the Pope. So every February 22nd, we have, for instance, the feast of the chair of St. Peter. And it's really amazing that one of the great gifts that God has given the Catholic Church is the gift of infallibility and the keys that he gave to Peter in Matthew 16. He says, to you, he's not speaking to the other apostles, he's talking to the person of Peter. To you, Peter, I give the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Later he says to him, you in your turn must give strength to your brethren. Now some people misinterpret that and they say, oh, well, Jesus was speaking to the apostles in general. No. He's speaking to Peter as the head of the apostles. And Peter's mentioned through all the Gospels as the head. However, Peter does work in tandem, in union with the other apostles. And there's three primary forms of infallibility. A pope, or certainly bishops, and all of us, we're all sinners, right? And Pope Francis has said that about himself. So we're all sinners, and I put myself at the front of the line. We all need confession. But there's a difference between the humanity of the person and the office. And so God, of course, can use both, but when we talk about infallibility, we're talking about the gift of faith and morals, that the Church is guided by the Holy Spirit, free from error. Three primary forms of that. The first one is what's called an ex cathedra, or literally from the chair statement. So in the First Vatican Council in 1869 to 1870, we had a document that addressed this called Pastor Aeternos. The Church always believed this, but they didn't actually put it so much on paper until that time. So when a Pope makes a definitive ex cathedra statement, for instance, the Immaculate Conception in the 1850s, or in 1950 we had the feast, the dogma of the Assumption of Mary from Pius XII. That's guided free from error, and a Pope still does that in union with the bishops of the world. Then we also have an ecumenical council. We've had 21 of those in the history of the Church. And so a Pope is guiding the body of the bishops, and we believe, it's actually in canon law too, that a council is guided free from doctrinal error. The Second Vatican Council made this point in Lumen Gentium 25. But then we also have this infallibility that the Church guides when a teaching has been the ongoing teaching of the faith throughout the centuries, that it's guided free from error. Maybe an example of this certainly is that a male-only priesthood. It's not that men are more important. It's that we're different. We're equal but different. And certainly the teaching that against contraception, these would be the infallible doctrine. And so they're unchangeable. They're guided free from error. So it's a great gift that God has given the Church that we have a lot to be proud of.